In chapter 4 I discuss the argument from miracles. You find miracles in all the major religions, and all the principal religious figures perform them. Christianity has a particular fondness for miracles. After all, Jesus was born of a virgin, healed the sick, and brought the dead back to life. And according to St. Paul, one miracle in particular, the miracle of Jesus' own resurrection, is so essential that the gospel message would be impossible without it. And then we have all those innumerable miracles outside the gospel tradition. The wonders performed by saints, St. Francis's stigmata, bleeding statues, visions of the Virgin, and so on. These events are not regarded as being simply unusual or unexpected, on a par with one's outside chance of winning the lottery. Rather, they are taken as genuine violations of the normal course of things, as occurrences so totally outside our normal terms of reference that only explanation in terms of divine intervention can do them justice. For the religious mind, therefore, that such events can happen at all provides real evidence of the existence of a being who is alone capable of bringing them about. Needless to say, a great many thinkers have challenged this idea. One of the most important is the 17th century Jewish philosopher Benedict Spinoza. He argued that because nature was a closed system, keeping to a fixed and immutable order, a miracle, any miracle, was an absurdity. But the classic objection to any concept of divine intervention comes from the 18th century Scottish philosopher David Hume. In my view, the greatest philosopher ever to write in English. In his celebrated essay Of Miracles of 1748, Hume comes up with a famous definition of a miracle. A miracle, he says, is a transgression of a law of nature by a particular volition of the deity or by the interposition of some invisible agent. And with this definition, he proceeds to argue that miracles, if not logically impossible, Hume never says that they're logically impossible, he concludes that they are nevertheless evidentially highly improbable. And like all great philosophical arguments, it is very simple. Laws of nature are summaries of frequencies. More technically, they are summaries of inductive reasoning. So, for example, the more I see A followed by B, the greater my expectation that A will be followed by B in the future. So I construct a law. A is always followed by B. And you do this according to this empirical invariance. Now, once you understand this rule, a miracle must always stand, and stand by definition, as an exception to this invariance. Thus, there will always be a proportionate lack of evidence in its favour. This is because there will always be more occurrences that go up to make the law of nature than there are exceptions. This simple conclusion, says Hume, demonstrates the intrinsic improbability of such a violation of natural law occurring. The debate about miracles, both ancient and modern, to a very large extent still hovers round Hume's argument. One early critic was the 18th century Bishop Joseph Butler, who argued that reports do not cease to be credible simply because they narrate extraordinary events. So the fact that the life of Caesar was extraordinary doesn't mean that reports about him are unreliable. But this argument was in turn dismissed in the 19th century by John Stuart Mill, who argued that Caesar's career and a miracle were two qualitatively different things, the one lying within the range of normal experience and the other clearly outside it. This distinction only serves to underscore Hume's original objection, that there is a correlation between one's scepticism about the reports of a particular event having occurred, no matter how unimpeachable the source, and the intrinsic improbability of the event being reported when that event conforms to no known pattern of experience. I should mention that there is one other definition of miracle which avoids these Humean broadsides. This we may call the contingency definition of miracles. A miracle is not a disruption of the normal course of events, but it is a direct act of God wholly explicable in natural terms. Now, how does this work? An example of this would be of a woman who sees her son trapped on a railway line. She prays to God to save her son. Along comes the train, but stops just short of the boy. Is this a miracle? It is to the mother, even though further investigation reveals a totally natural explanation. The train driver had a heart attack following an extremely heavy lunch, and his seizure had automatically applied the brake. This defines a miracle, then, as something within the natural order of things, but which, when set within a religious context, has religious significance to the person witnessing it. These, then, are some of the issues I deal with in this chapter. Whether or not you feel that an entirely subjective account of miracle satisfies the original definition of something breaking through the natural course of events is, of course, another matter, and one which I discuss at length. There are in all 8 extracts in this chapter, beginning with Hume and ending with Tillich. I should mention, however, one peculiarity about this chapter, and I think further evidence that I'm there to help as much as possible. I include 2 extracts from the same author. This is Richard Swinburne. I have to confess that I find him a tortuous writer, but nevertheless essential. So to help students, I've included 2 versions of the same argument. One difficult and very much in the Swinburnian mode, the other much easier. Again, in this instance, I'm trying to be as user-friendly as possible.